I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Hey, homies. Welcome to the Pound This Podcast. I am Amanda Valentine, and this is my diary. Scandalous. Not really. We're going to talk about what a hot mess express I am. As per usual, I've been doing this podcast 6 years, and that is the common theme. But before we start talking about me and what's going on with my own eating and exercise, as this is titled, an elimination diet, here we go. I want to talk to you about some people that can help you with your diet, and that is Sarah with Team Fit With Me. Whether you do have some intolerances like I do, that I have ignored for years, which would be gluten and dairy. Sarah can work with you with that, which I found out I have Hashimoto's disease from working with Sarah, because I went to my doctor and got blood work, and it just didn't do the job of showing me everything I needed to know. Sarah told me exactly what blood work to get. I did that, met with my doctor, and he's like, you need to meet with an endocrinologist. And I did. And they're like, oh yes, you very much have Hashimoto's, and it is just a matter of time until you go into hypothyroidism. And actually, I'm going to be getting some blood work here done soon to see if I have flipped over into that camp. So that all started with Sarah. And then Sarah's advice that I ignored, that's on me, is eat more, gluten and dairy free. But Sarah can help you create this menu. Jess is on her team, who is like a macro wizard. So whether you have some intolerances, whether you have some gut health issues, or you want to lose fat, or you want to get fit, or whatever your goals are, Sarah can look at you as a whole person and then get after it. So if you're looking for a health coach that will help you be accountable, will help you work with all those things, create a menu, create a workout plan, then go to teamfitwithme.com, and she'll also work with you on budget. So whatever your budget is, Sarah can work with you as an individual, and you guys can figure out what is best for you. Also, if you're working on diet and you're here in Cincinnati, then definitely check out Clean Eats in Newport. They make meal prepping so freaking easy that you can go and get fresh meals. You can get the grab and go meals. You can go into the cafe. You can order pizzas, salads, smoothies. I mean, the list goes on. So if you're like, man, I am struggle bussing because I just can't stay consistent and I just won't eat healthy because it's not convenient, that is where Clean Eats in Newport is so freaking phenomenal. And I've been sharing some of my meals as I've been like, knowing that I need to go more gluten-free and all of that. And I just got a text from my friend Julie, who was like, oh my God, the brisket mac and cheese. I'm like, oh my God, the brisket mac and cheese is so good. It is so good. So if you're looking for very tasty variety options for meal prep, check out Clean Eats in Newport. They are fantastic. So if you are new here, Hi, Amanda. But these diary episodes are just all about me and kind of what I'm going through. So if you don't want to hear that, then this is not the episode for you. But so some backstory about me is I had been obese my whole life, and I had done every diet and yo-yo dieted for over a decade and lose 60 pounds and gain it back. And then in 2012, I made a New Year's resolution to make the healthiest decision, or the best decision possible in every moment. And I'd say I mostly stick to that, but not because I just preface this whole thing by saying that I know I'm not supposed to eat much gluten, and I'm just shove it in my face hole like no tomorrow. So I have not been making the best decisions for myself. And there's been varied reasons for that. But I just want to be completely real and honest about my journey. So, I mean, doing that really changed my life. I lost over 100 pounds. Most of that was just walking outside. And I didn't even have a gym membership till I was already down 100 pounds. So, I mean, I'm all for the gym. I love going to the gym now. At the time, I did not. But walking outside and just making healthy food choices. When I first started, I wasn't weighing or measuring anything. I wasn't counting calories. I wasn't food logging anything because it stressed me out so much that it would make me gain weight. So that's where I began. And then I've been all over the spectrum from there. So I'm like, I've been in phases where I love counting macros and I love being very specific and weighing things and having everything to the gram. And then there's other times where I'm like, that's too much. I don't want to do that. And I think that part of my success has been just really tuning in to where I'm at and trying to honor that. And I think that's it's not been a bad thing, but I think that it's been really challenging, especially over the past several years. The past several years have been really challenging because I've just done some really very big life changes, made a very big career change, and then continued to make some career changes. And then I left an 18-year relationship, and that's a whole nother level of stress. And then moving and all sorts of stuff. It's just kind of like compiled. And through that, it's hard not to go to these like habits of like food. Like food to me is comfort. Food is safety. And it's like I have control over food. And it's when you're going through high stress stuff and you want to numb out, right? And there's so many different ways to numb out. And I feel like especially the past year, I eliminated a lot of those numbing agents. And so food, what was left, and it's not like I've been, going buck wild or anything, but I think it's also just a sign for me of just like how insane inflammation is, of just how much stress affects your body. And then you could beat yourself up because you're not losing weight or whatever. And it's because you need to freaking chill out. It's not like you can be like, I'm doing all the right things. Like for me, I'm like, I am a very active person. I go to Trilogy and I lift 2 to 3 times a week. So I go to the gym and I lift for 45 minutes to an hour, 3 times a week. I get at least 10,000 steps a day. I work at the nature center, so I'm outside hiking all the time. So I'm either on a hike or I'm walking or I've been biking or I go kayaking. So I'm like, I'm active. So it's, and you've heard the whole phrase of you can't outrun a bad diet. And it's not like my diet's been the worst either, but it's just like I can be really active. I'm not eating as healthy as I could, but it's also just like, I just feel inflamed and I just feel like, bleh, you know what I mean? And it's not because I'm like, oh, you're this turd and you're not working hard enough. Of like, I'm doing a lot of healthy things. I meditate every single day. I prioritize my sleep. I have routines. I am physically active. I am spiritually active. I'm hitting all these markers, but at the same time, I think that it's just really regulating stress and then knowing that my body doesn't jive well with certain things and I ignore it and I blow past it. And I've talked on this podcast before about, especially like with like physical injuries, how I'm like, oh, well, I blow past yellow lights all the time. And I'm like, that's exactly what I feel like I've been doing now. That I feel like because of stress, because of like emotional strain, that I'm like, that is like, well, I need to feel comfortable. Like I deserve this. I deserve to make myself a cake and eat the whole thing because I just want to feel comfy. I just want to like check out, you know what I mean? And so, it's just, I totally lost my train of thought. I was ranting there and then I lost it. But it's really like taking care of yourself. And I'd say for me, and the reason why I wanted to record this episode of kind of like where I've been at, and I've been really like tuning in and being like, I've not been reeling myself in at all. Not that I want to restrict myself. But I've just been, every time I feel an emotion, it's like, you're doing whatever, willy-nilly make some bad decisions just because you deserve to feel better. But I think what's really kind of really triggered me over the past couple months is that in the morning when I wake up, my ankles are so stiff, it's like hard for me to walk. I'm like hobbling to the bathroom and I'm like, what the hell is this? And it's not because I'm working out too hard. It's not anything else. And I'm like, what is this? And I looked it up, and it's like arthritis. And I know I have arthritis and that's an inflammation issue where I'm like, I have an autoimmune disease, and I'm like, it has obviously gotten worse. I am in my 40s now. I am ignoring taking care of this thing that I know affects my body. It gives me so much brain fog and fatigue and weight gain, and is highly triggered by stress. And I'm like, I have not been taking care of myself in that way. And obviously my body is like, yellow light, stupid. You're going to have to hobble in the morning. You can't walk. Like, and I'm like, I can't be doing this. I'm like, I feel like I can have some sort of control over this. So that's already been on my mind. And then in the past month, I've gotten sick twice. And last year when I worked at the Y, I was not used to being around preschoolers, and I was sick like once a month, on average once a month. And I'm like, I've burned out all my sick days. I've spent so much money in freaking co-pays from having strep and pneumonia and sinus infections and ear infections. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot stop getting sick. And then starting this new job and then being outside all the time, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm good. I'm taking care of myself. And then both times I recently got sick, I was around someone sick, and I immediately got sick. And I'm like, my immune system is just trashed. I'm like, I can't not just be around a person and they have a cold and I immediately get it. Like, that's not okay. So I'm like, my joints are stiff as hell and uncomfortable. I'm getting sick all the time. I'm like, this is not about like losing weight or looking hot in a pair of jeans. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I've been doing this a long time for myself, over a decade. I've been doing this podcast over 6 years. I've talked to so many freaking people. I have so many resources, and yet I am not taking care of myself in those ways. And that's not okay. It's not okay for me, and it's not okay to, say that I care about these things and then not do it, in my opinion, for me. So I'm like, okay. And for me, I'm a person, I'm not a super even anti-diet person, I guess. If that's what works for you, do whatever you want to do. Whatever works for you, do your thing. I will say about diets, like, is it teaching? You need to learn something from it, because you can't do that certain thing like till the end of time in most cases. So that's where I'm like, well, I do need to do like an elimination diet. Like I gotta pull some reins in. And for me, when it's like, oh, I have like a 30-day challenge or something, I'm like, I will stick to it and I will gun. That is me. Like, I know that about myself. I like little challenges. I love streaks. I've also gone over 2 months now without turning my TV on, because I gave myself a little challenge, because I was noticing to check out, I would get home from work and just turn on the TV and want to eat. Like, the TV on for me equates wanting to just sit there and binge eat. And so I was doing that every night. And I'm like, take the TV out and I bet the eating goes away. And it did. So it's not that like, oh, the food is necessarily the issue. It's just like, I'm doing this thing and I associate that with that behavior. And I really don't miss not having TV, to be completely honest with you, but I don't have kids. So it's just me. I'm by myself. And like, so I found other stuff to do, but that it's just kind of like giving myself those little challenges will make me do it. So I was looking into like doing a really clean keto or doing paleo. A friend of mine has had a ton of success with paleo. Like, she just really loves the lifestyle. She's been doing it years and years and years and really loves it and feels great. And I also know one of my friends has rheumatoid arthritis, and she eats a very strict paleo diet, and it helps her with her rheumatoid arthritis, because if she eats gluten and dairy, her hands like stiffen into claws. Isn't that insane? And so it's so much of what you're eating. And again, it's not just about like how you're looking. It is like literally affecting your health and your movement and your brain. So I was discussing this with a friend, and she's like, I think you should do the whole 30 instead. And I'm like, ooh, 30 days. I like that. And so that's what I'm like challenging myself to do, to see if some of these things clear up. Because if I take out gluten and dairy, and I don't really drink much alcohol to begin with, and sugars and stuff like that. Then outside of fruit, I'm like, if I wake up in the morning and my ankles are no longer stiff anymore, I'm like, bingo, it's something I'm eating. You know what I mean? So how much I feel like, at least for me and people I've talked to, we just blow past this sort of stuff because we're just thinking of like dieting as how do we look? And I mean, it's all part of how we feel too. We have more energy and all of those good things. But like sometimes like in these cases where it's like, you know, this would be game changing for me. Like I feel achy all the time. My hips ache, my ankles ache. I know I don't really stretch either. That is on me. At least I'm being honest, you guys. So I'm not great at that, but so I might give myself like a little yin yoga challenge because I don't like other kinds of yoga, to be honest with you. That's just me. I do like yin yoga though, and it does make me feel like stretchy and better. So I might like find a YouTube channel or something like that and try that at home because yoga classes are expensive. Anyway, so I'm like, I really need to start taking care of this stuff. Like this is important. Focus, Amanda. So I'm also recording this podcast to, you know, hold myself accountable because that's where I'm at and that's what I'm living through right now. And so I have like no regrets or anything. I've definitely I am not a body size that I've been in a while, and there's days that I'm like, ugh, about that. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't, for me right now, I'm like, I can't get on a scale right now. I think one, it'll depress me. I think it'll put me in a bad headspace. And then I'm like, for me, I know myself. I do not want to get in a spiral of weighing myself all the time and constantly rearranging my life around what the scale tells me. I've done that a lot. Sometimes it's really served me and it's been really great. And other times it's been really horrible. And I feel like I'm in a brain space now. I'm like, I don't need to bully myself. I think I've done a lot of that in my life. And I think that that's not where I want to be right now. I just want to feel better. I would like my clothes to fit better. That would be cool. But that's where I think the inflammation thing comes in. I know that like when I eat dairy and stuff like that, like I can look in the mirror and I look like tight, like a beach ball. And I know that, but yet I do it anyway because cheese is the best. Oh my God, I love cheese. So it's one of those things where I'm like, this isn't forever though. I'm like, I need to test it out. I need to see what works and what doesn't and see how I can work that into my life in ways that doesn't feel restricting, that doesn't feel awful, that doesn't eliminate that forever. If you told me I'm never going to eat cheese again, there's no way. And one, I would immediately just go out and start just like hoarding cheese and eating all of the cheese. The moment you tell me I can't do it, then it's going to happen all freaking day. And not only that, then it'll be like, oh, well, I'm going to stop eating cheese on Monday. Well, let's see how much cheese I can eat until Monday. Just like, oh, diet starts Monday. I got to eat everything in the house before the diet starts. I don't know how that makes sense, but I've done that like 8 billion times. And even as much as I know, and I know better, I still do the same damn thing. So I don't know. Lesson not learned on that one, I guess. But you know, I just want, hopefully this is helpful to somebody listening to this and whatever you're going through, because it's just kind of like we're all in such different seasons, in different stages. And I think it's just also understanding nothing lasts forever. It will change. Our bodies are changing every day. Our mental situation, and I didn't say that very eloquently, but you know what I'm saying? Like we change, we grow, we learn every day. And that we can't expect that things that we've done in the past to continue working. And I think that's really hard because it's hard to like start over. It's hard to clean slate. It's hard to like, I think that what I've been doing, especially in the past year, is keep grabbing towards, well, this worked for me before. Let me try this. And I'm doing those things and it just doesn't click. And it is so frustrating. It just makes me want to punch a freaking wall of like, I know this has motivated me before and this worked so well. How come like, it's just like, you know, you're just like grabbing an oily doorknob. Like you just like can't get a grip on it. And it's like, because it's not meant for me now. Like that doesn't work for me now. That worked for me maybe 2 years ago or 12 years ago, but it does not work for me now. And you got to let it go, and you have to do things in a different way. And that's hard. It's really hard to like just completely reinvent the wheel again. And I think so many people that do that in fitness, if like you get injured and now the thing that you love, you can't do anymore, especially like with runners. And it's like, you can't, that was hard for me. I wouldn't define myself as a runner, I guess, but I ran all the freaking time. And then my orthopedic surgeon's like, yo, knock that off. And then it's like, well, now what? Like that was free. I got to go outside every day and exercise. That was rad. So how do I figure this out? But then I figured out trying strength training and weight training, and I really enjoyed that. So, but it's hard and scary. And then it's so hard when you try to pick up a new habit or a new rhythm and it's not the right thing. And it's so frustrating because it's like you're trying, you have all the best intentions, and you'll try a couple times or a couple weeks, and then it just like fades away. And then it goes into, I think, for me anyway, this headspace of like, what's wrong with you? Like, why can't you just focus? Like, why can't you just get it together? And it's like, it's not that. It's just that thing wasn't meant for me. But then it's so frustrating of like, well, how many freaking things do I have to try until I find the right thing? But that's just life, baby. And that's what I have found. But then I think when you find that thing that you really like, it's like, ooh, yeah, I'm digging this. Like, I'm just a passionate person, and I just like love finding things I'm passionate about. And something I don't want to like go all in and be like, ooh, this is my new passion. But it's definitely tickled my brain in a positive way. That a coworker of mine was telling me, as I was sick last week, she's like, hey, if you take these sweet gum balls and you soak them in 100 proof vodka for like 6 weeks, he makes like a little tincture out of it that is kind of like a cold medicine and an immunity booster. And you just take, and she's like, I've done this before. I've made it a bunch of times. And I'm like, shut up. Well, let me do that. So I'm doing that. I mean, that's sitting in my cabinet right now. That's not done. But then I did another one this past weekend out of like some pine needles to kind of make like an immunity tea. And I was just like, you know what? I'll try anything. But like, this is also infusing like nature and cooking and wellness. So I'm like, oh, hello, I like you. So we'll see how that goes. So like, as I'm going to try this like Whole30 elimination diet to see what's like going on with joint stiffness and brain fog and all of that, I also kind of want to try these like natural remedies because that really intrigues me too. And I think it sucks that I think this happens for most of us. We have to get to this point where you have a breaking point, where you just get to this point where I'm like, I'm hobbling to the bathroom every morning. And even not only that, it's like if I just like sit too long, if like I'm sitting too long at my desk at work, I'll get up and it's like the same thing. It's like I just like stiff ankles and I'm hobbling to the bathroom until, I mean, it loosens up, then it's fine. Where I'm like, I'm like, this isn't normal for me. And I gotta find a better way. And so I'm working it. I'm trying different angles. I care about myself. So, I've talked about self-love so much, and I'm like, well, this is how you ultimately love yourself. You know what I mean? But again, like to the same point I was just making, it sucks. It's like we like abuse ourselves to a point where it's like, oh my God, I'm so battered and beaten and I hate myself, or whatever point you're at. Till then you're like, now I have to finally love me. I'm not speaking for everyone, but that's definitely like a pattern for me. Is just like, it just has to get to this point where you're like, line in the sand, no more. I got to change something. So that's what I'm trying. But also I feel bad because there's been times where I've shared this sort of stuff like on this podcast or on Instagram. And then I just like don't follow through because that's also life. I'm like, I have this really cool idea. I'm going to do this thing. Woo! And then it just like falls apart. And then I'm like, oh, well, do I seem like a total butthole that I'm not following through on what I said I would? But I'm like, I tried, I did my best, and some things just don't work. And I can't sit there and focus on it. And so I would give that advice to anybody with anything too, of like, I know people following like their, people post their fitness journey and everything or their weight loss journey on Instagram. And then I think it really gets in your head sometimes and can sometimes make the situation worse where you're like, I posted this for accountability for me. And if I'm not sticking to it 100%, now I feel even worse. I feel like people are going to know I couldn't do it or I'm failing. I just feel like that can go to a really bad place. And I think it's just been like, nah, I tried it, it didn't work because that's, hey, I'm learning myself. I thought I could do this or I thought I would like it and I didn't. So that's what I learned and we're moving on to the next thing. And I think it's just taking ownership of it and understanding it and taking every situation and being like, what did this teach me? Is so big. And that's exactly where I'm at in this moment is everything that I've been through, everything that I've learned, everything I'm going through right now is what is this teaching me and how do I move forward rather than sit here and complain that my ankles are stiff and I have brain fog and I feel inflamed and I feel like a beach ball and like, oh, woe is me. I'm so bad. And I felt sad today. So I ate a cake. You know what I mean? So it's like, no, I'm like, well, let me see if I can at least try to do something for it because I do, like I just said, love to live an active lifestyle. I love working out outside, not even working out. I just love being outside. And I don't want to be in a place where my body can't do that because I'm not taking care of it. So that's something that gives me so much joy and I love, and I don't want that to go away because I felt like I had to eat white bread. You know what I mean? Not to say I'm going to completely get rid of that, but you know what I'm saying? Of just like, man, I took away this like really big, large thing that I love for this really short-term numbing thing. It's not even like it was the best thing ever. It was just something to like check out for 10 minutes while I was eating it because I had a rough day. But it took away these like large things that I love. And I think it's things putting in stuff in perspective like that. And again, is in health, and how you're taking care of that, of yourself and the people around you. And I think it's easier when you see somebody else going through this to, have empathy and understand. And then what is yourself? You're like so mean to yourself that you would never be that mean to someone else. Well, at least I hope you wouldn't be. So I don't know. Thank you for listening to this ramble. It's already been a half hour, so I feel like I should shut up about it. But I really appreciate you listening, and I really love the feedback I get too. I feel so awkward doing some of these episodes where I'm just rambling about, what I eat or what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling and what I'm kind of going through. But at least you guys have told me it's been really helpful, and that's what I'm doing this whole thing for. Is I felt really alone going through all of this, and I think hearing some of this stuff out loud from someone else being like, oh my God, I feel this way too. And I'm like, oh, that just makes me feel normal. I think that I feel like that's so helpful. So we're all just trying to figure it out. We all just got here. We've never been in this moment before. We're all just living here today, and we've never lived this day before. And we're all doing our best. And I think that's what's important. So no matter how many times you have to try or screw up, as long as you feel like you're doing your best for you, I feel like that's what counts. And who cares what anybody else thinks? I think people are going to judge no matter what. And their judgment is a reflection of themselves and not a reflection of you. So I think that's a thing to remember too, especially we're talking about sensitive subjects here. We're talking about body image and mental health and, how we take care of our bodies, and people put a lot of judgment on other people on that stuff. And that's all of their crap, not yours. So I think just remember that you're doing this for you, and people might not understand, but they don't have to. They're not living your life. They don't feel your stiff ankles. On that note, yes, thank you again so much for listening. If you ever have any feedback or any questions, please send me an email, amanda@amandavalentinebites.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at You Can Pound This. And I really appreciate you being here, and I really mean it. And that's it. All right, bye.
AmandaValentineBites.com